Hey, this is the new episode of my podcast. Today, my guest is Cindy Fossouo. She is the CEO of Information Systems Builder based in San Francisco. They help tech startups with their branding and marketing. She's also a deal partner at a venture capital, which consists of her giving more than 100K of funding for startups. Not only is she the CEO at Information Systems Builder, but she also previously founded multiple startups. So, Cindy, you can go from here and tell a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your show. So I work at a venture capital. I'm a deal partner, and I'm also the CEO of Information Systems Builder. Tech startups, right? They need a lot of help with their branding and marketing because they're tech geniuses and they know how to build. But when it comes to putting the message out there, they have a really hard time. So we help them with that.
Cool, cool. Um, I do like to dive into your company that you're running a little bit more. Maybe you can tell about how does it usually work? What's the business model, high level, the things you can share.
Yeah, so how it works is, right, a founder comes to us and he says, I have a really hard time marketing my company. I don't know if it's an early startup, I don't know who my target audience, this is my target audience, but I don't know how to message to them. And we've built a platform where they can go, they put information about the company, and it tells them exactly the prompt of how to market their company based on who their company is, like they're a SaaS company, and this is their target audience. So it gives them all of those in-depth questions that they really need to know. And they need to know these before even launching, right? Or if they're launching
Yep.
and they need a rebrand, they need to know these key features. So they know how to message. And when they're done with our platform and really getting to know how could they really market this platform that they've built, then we implement that for them.
Yeah, so this is a product and a service, or is it just a product?
It's a product and a service. Yeah, it's all in one company.
Yeah, and how does that process work? So I enter the information about my company, and does it like have some AI that
Yeah,
analyzes it, or
mhm. It has AI.
uh, AI? And do you have like some people in the background who kind of check it and give their own opinion, or is it just AI and separately you have your own services that you can provide on top of that?
So it's a whole service. It's, the AI does the job, and then we carry it and we implement that for them, right? It's kind of like they get the information and we kind of like take the information and implement it for the company. So it's all a whole company, but it's like a process. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, but I guess to start with your journey, it would be interesting to know how did you become an entrepreneur in the first place? Did you have like full-time jobs before that? What's your story?
Yeah, so I did my bachelor's and my master's at St. Mary's College of California. It's like in a small town, and it's this private school. And I went there and I did communications. And I founded my first company when I was like 17. And I didn't even know about LLC or anything. It was like this small company where and I was just like, I've always wanted to have my own company, right? I knew that, all of the greats like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and all of those greats, I just really loved how they could come up with ideas and then build and then inspire the whole world. So I love that and I really wanted to be that. So, and I am in San Francisco already, so that was like even perfect because all of those tech people are just here, right? They're like 20 minutes away from me in Palo Alto. So, I just really wanted to be a founder and I founded my first company. I didn't have an LLC and I was just talking to people in China and trying to, get goods and, do this and do that. And I really love the process. I really love the process of you thinking, this is a problem, this is how I can solve it, and this is how I can build it. And I just love that process. And um, I had the company, and then everything was good. I had a great product. I had, everything was amazing, and my business plan was amazing. And looking back, it wasn't amazing, but at that time, it was
Yeah.
amazing. And everything was good. And then I said, you know what? Let me just launch it. And I launched it, and I had a domain name and everything. And then I just launched it. And then I was like, wow, I can't imagine other people that have great ideas and great products like me, but they don't know about the marketing aspect. Because at first people think, oh no, I have a great product, everyone is gonna love it. Everybody's gonna
Yeah.
get it. And that's not true. You need to put some work in with your marketing. You need to really know what messaging you're going to put out there, know who your target audience is. And, a mistake that people do in marketing is they're like, I'm targeting everybody. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You need to know who's going to identify with your product. Who and how do you message to them, right? You could know who your target audience is, but then your messaging doesn't make any sense. And people are like, I don't know what that is. So, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how people, could do this. And also, keyword, they're competing with other big companies. So your messaging has to be great, but you also need to compete with the greats,
Sure.
the great companies. So so fast forward, that company didn't, not that it didn't work, but I was young, I wasn't experienced, but it really helped me know what I want to do in my life very early on, and that I do not regret, because I knew I wanted to be a founder, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I had the the courage to be a founder, because I really tell people, I'm like, being a founder, you really have to have that thing, right? And if you don't have it, then you won't know how to really progress. And I think that company really highlighted, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to, and not be a founder because I want to be a founder, but be a founder because I want to have great ideas and really put it out there, build it, and then it inspires the whole world. Um, so right after that, I went to college. I knew this is what I wanted to do. So my path was, I knew my goal is I wanted to build something great and be a founder. So I really made sure that I went to school and I met the right people. And I studied the right thing, or what I wanted to do. I went to a lot of conferences. Um, I just wanted to meet people, because I was like, my goal is to be a founder, and you need to
Yeah.
meet investors, you need to meet a lot of people. So I would go to a lot of events. And then after that, I did some internships here and there. And when I finished my master's, my whole family was like, okay, so you're getting a job at Google, right? And then I was like, no. And they were like, wait, what do you mean? And I was like, no, I really want to find my own company. And they were like, what? What? And then, at first they thought I was just joking. They were like, oh, there's no way. And, because I had that problem when I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, well, I'm sure a lot of founders that just came in and they have this great idea and they probably want to compete with Amazon or Facebook or these big tech giant companies. I'm sure they're having a really hard time, because when you're a founder, nobody knows you, right? You're just saying, "Hey, I have this great product for you guys," and it's like, we don't. But if Mark Zuckerberg comes out with another product, they already know his name, they trust him, he has that credibility. So I said, oh, what if I just, I just help other founders with, the branding and marketing. And I said, okay. And I hired some people. I got some investors in my team. And at first we were just a marketing agency. And after that, I said, you know what? They actually need more help, right? They actually need a platform where they could go and they could say, this is the information about my company. I need help. And at first I was like, okay, well, do I just stay as a platform? Do I change the company from a marketing agency to just the platform? And then I was like, you know what? I want to do both because, I could tell you your target audience is this person, right? But you still don't know how to implement that. You're like, okay, I know who my target
Mm-hmm.
audience now, but okay, what do I do with this information? I'm not really a marketing person. And
Yeah,
we focus on tech startups. We do, big tech companies, but we really focus on tech startups because they need the most help. And because they need the most help, but they don't have a lot of money, right? Because they're
yeah,
just starting. So because they don't have a lot of money, they don't have money to actually hire a full-time marketing person. And because they don't know anything about marketing, so even if the platform tells them this is your target audience, they don't know how to implement that or how to
sure.
mention that. So that's why I kept the marketing agency and the platforms. Sometimes when I explain it to people, they're like, wait, so you're two companies? I'm like, no, it's one. It's like
Yeah,
just a pathway. It's like you use the platform and then we implement it for you.
yeah, yeah, cool. Um, I have some questions about the company, but I am curious about the first one that you started when you were
Mhm.
17. How did that go? What did you achieve with that? And what was the business model? You mentioned some goods in overseas, like in China, or what exactly did you do?
It was a swimsuit and a makeup line. So
Interesting.
it was just some swimsuit. I would like design swimsuits and I would, also design some, makeup. And 17 is when, girls get into, makeup and all my
Hmm.
friends love makeup. And I was like, well, I need to come up with my own makeup line because so you guys could all buy it from me.
Sure.
So I started designing and I started just designing the swimsuit, designing the makeup, and I would call people in China. I would, go to, China for my birthday. My dad got me a plane ticket to go to China because I was so passionate about this. And
Cool.
I went there and I talked to them and I was like, okay, I was like discussing business deals. And I think at
Wow.
17, that for me, that was like, oh my God, like I was so grown,
Of course,
and
yeah.
yeah, and and I think that company really helped me because it also helped me that in business, as a female, you really have to be tough and you really have to say this is
Sure.
what I want because sometimes they don't take you seriously as a female and they're just like, oh, what do you want or something. So I think when I went to China, my first meeting, they didn't really take me seriously. And then I went back to the hotel room and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be more firm and I'm not gonna smile as much. And I'm gonna say, this is what I want, this is what I want,
Yep.
this is what I want. And the second meeting, I was a lot more like, just more of
Yep.
the CEO presence. And then that's when I saw, oh, they're really taking me seriously. So I really think that that company helped me, just helped me solidify what I want to do and also helped me get in the nitty gritty.
Yeah, and then you kind of ended the company, right? You went to college, and what did you study? Was it like business or something else?
It was communications. I did communications because I was gonna do finance or business. And my dad really wanted me to do finance. I knew I wanted to be in venture capital. I really loved venture capital, and I, I, I knew about venture capital very late. So I knew I wanted to be in some type of venture capital. I really love how, venture capital works, but I really didn't want to do finance because I always knew I wanted to be a founder either way. And
Sure.
I was like, so, and then business, I, I really thought that, business that would come with learning, right? That would
Yep.
come with me actually getting in the space and learning from different people, and with experience, I would gain the business aspect. So I went for communications because with communications, you get to know how to talk to people. You learn how to do the marketing aspect. You learn how to um, solve situations in marketing. So I really like communications because it wasn't just one thing. It was in communication, there's so many things in communication that you could do. So I think that's why I went with communications.
Yeah, and you did both bachelor's and master's, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, cool. And then you, right after you graduated, you started this new company, right?
Yes.
Cool, cool. Yeah, so going back to your current company, um, where you're at now, what did you achieve with that, and maybe some lessons that you can share, and maybe even mistakes that you've made that you can share with the audience who are listening to.
Mm. Um, I what I achieved with Information Systems Builder is it really when I started in Information Systems Builder, I had a little bit more experience than your first usual founder.
Sure,
And I got in there and I had like two investors from the get-go, and I had some employees. And I think what Information Systems Builder, I learned a lot. It really matured me. I think I didn't know about VCs and how to talk to VCs, where to meet VCs. I didn't know about conferences. I didn't know about, so all of that just really matured me. And I always tell first time founders, I say your first company, it's really for you to learn,
sure, yeah,
and that's where you will make the most mistakes, your first company. And I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot. And I think one key thing that I did learn was um you never know too much, right? And I say this to my employees, it's like, I always want to hear their feedback, and I always want to learn different things. And sometimes you think you know too much, so you definitely want to learn a lot, and you want to be humble, right? You want to meet different people. You never know who's who. And you definitely want to network. Oh, that's like the number one
sure.
thing. Networking, networking, networking.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Networking is probably one of the most important activities for a founder.
Oh yeah.
And I think especially in B2B, though I'm not really familiar with B2C, but in B2B, like networking, potential clients,
Mhm.
investors, it's very important. Uh, I'm interested in, you mentioned you attracted some investments. How did that go? Did you start without investments, basically bootstrapping, and then you found them, or did you like started by attracting some funds at the start?
At first, with my first company, I did bootstrap, and I like bootstrap, but I think if you want to get there faster, you do need investors. That's just the
Sure.
reality. And I think for Information Systems Builder, I started with investors from the get-go, because I just, with the mistakes that I did for my first company, I was like, yeah, bootstrapping is good, but you don't get there faster. Um, so yeah, we got investors, and the way you meet investors, it's literally, I think for me, was a lot of networking and a lot of going to different conferences, pitching your idea, um, really, this like another founder, right? You're like, hey, I'm raising, and they're like, yeah, I know this investor. Let me connect you guys. So or you
Yeah.
have friends in, that's another advice I would give anybody that wants to have their own company. just be friends with, or find some friends that work at venture capital,
Hmm.
because they're going to tell you, oh yeah, we're looking for this company, and you could just send them your, or just I have friends that work at venture capital, and I just send them my pitch, right? Before I was a deal partner, I just send them my pitch, and I'm like, hey, does this make sense? Do you think, I mean, you're in venture capital and you invest in companies, do you think this makes sense? And they would say, hey, it makes sense, but tweak this. And so you definitely want to have friends in venture capital, because they're the ones investing, and they know if a pitch is good, if an idea is good, if you need to tweak something, if you need to do this something. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And are you a solo founder or did you have a co-founder that you started it with?
Solo.
S
Solo.
Solo, but plus investors from the
Yeah.
get-go. Yeah,
hmm
yeah. And you also mentioned you hired employees, so maybe you could tell maybe high level without going into the details you cannot share about the team structure. How was the hiring? Probably the first time for you go. Maybe any challenges with that you faced?
With employees, when I started, I got two marketing specialists, and then some. When I first started, I didn't start with a lot of employees, because, I wanted to cut down on costs, but I still wanted some people in my team. So I started with two, and then it just got bigger. And it got bigger because of the platforming. So you hire engineers, and you hire AI specialists. So when I first started, like my first day, I had two employees. And any challenges? I think as a founder, dealing with different personalities, right, is, difficult if you're not used to it. And I am the only child, so I mean, besides that, so
Hmm.
dealing with a lot of personalities at first was very challenging for me. And also, um, you're the boss, but you also want their ideas, right? You don't want to tell them this is what we're,
Yeah,
right? You want
sure.
to make sure that you say, hey, this is the strategy, and also get their feedback and not be offended, right? If they don't like it, they don't like it. If they love it, they love it. And I think those ones were the most challenging. The feedback wasn't challenging, because I love feedback and I love criticism, because for me, criticism means that I can evolve,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the Yeah. So that's a way of me evolving. So I don't mind criticism, but the challenging part of that was, how can I listen to their ideas and say, okay, thank you for your feedback, but I actually think I'm gonna do this, right? Because you also want to make sure, because as a leader, they can't just say, oh, we should change this, and then you just go and change it, right? You have to
Yeah.
have your own vision. And I think that's the key. It's have your own vision. When you have a vision, and when you have a goal in anything in life, that's where you could see what path to go.
Yeah, yeah, great. And I'm also very interested about the product itself, especially the AI part.
hmm
How did that start? How did that evolve? What did it take to build it?
Took some engineers, took some months to just perfect it. It's actually not even for the public. We kept it for our clients only. Because with AI, you need to train it, right? And it takes,
Yeah,
a lot to train it. So we just kept it with our clients. And it's been challenging. I don't want to come here and say it's been easy breezy. It's been challenging, because training the AI and making sure your clients test it, and everything else. So um it's been challenging but good, right? I don't want to say just challenging. It's been challenging but good.
yeah, yeah, cool. And obviously, when you're running the company, there are multiple directions, like as you mentioned, engineering, marketing, sales, financial management, legal, everything. What direction is your maybe favorite in terms like you really love it, and what is the most challenging for you?
Great question. The most I love it. I think I love finding a problem and solving it and seeing it evolve and
Yeah.
seeing it, blossom and reading feedbacks from customers and users saying that they love it or anything else. So I think that's more satisfying because it's like, okay, my sleepless nights, have been worth it. And so I think that's the most rewarding. And also everybody in your team just working hard, right? It's just not me, it's everybody on the team. And the most challenging, I would say, it's not easy. You have to love what you do to be a founder
Yeah.
because, you're dealing with, employees, you're dealing with investors, you're dealing with, users, customers, you're dealing with. So I think you really have to love it to do it. And as a CEO, you're not just dealing with the company. You have to go out there, right? You're your own salesperson too.
Yes.
I think I saw on Twitter somebody tweeted the CEO is the number one salesperson. So
Yeah.
I think you're your own salesperson. So definitely balancing all of that could be very, very challenging. And if I had to give advice to anybody out there is, I really think that my first company really helped me. If I didn't learn the key things that I learned that I mentioned earlier, I think I would have a much um harder time.
Sure.
So I think
Yeah.
finding a company that it doesn't have to be LLC, just find out what it takes to be a founder. Find out what you love about it, what you hate about it. Because when you know what you love and what you hate, then I was reading a book and it said, if when you know your weaknesses, that's when you know who to hire to help you with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or where to learn. So definitely knowing your weaknesses. I'm good at this and I'm not good at this. So
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And I also want to ask you about the venture capital part of your journey because you mentioned that you're not only a founder, but you also work in this venture capital sphere. How did you get there? And you mentioned that you always wanted to live in that world. How did you get there, and where you're now in terms of VCs and maybe investing?
yeah, so I joined the venture capital again as ventures, and we just help tech startups with just to raise, just to have capital. And I think I always wanted to be in venture capital, right? I just didn't know when, and later on I knew when. I knew when I will build my company and it would be at a certain level where I could bring something else with me and juggle something else, which is venture capital. And so what I do is I just, help other founders, right? They come to me with their ideas. I evaluate their pitch deck, I evaluate their company, and then we invest more than 100K. And I think for me that was very important because I know how hard it is as a founder to even find investors, or to
Yeah.
even have connections to venture capital. It's very, very hard. And it's even more hard if you're not in San Francisco, right? Because not just in San Francisco, there's investors everywhere, but in San Francisco, it's like the main thing.
Yeah.
And as a first time founder, it could be very hard to know where are they? Who do I talk to? Where do I start? And I really wanted to help in that aspect because I know how it is.
Yeah, yeah, great. And obviously, you balance the running the company side of things and the investing side of things. What do you find more interesting for you? And maybe the follow-up question would be, where do you want to go in the future? Continuing running your company, or maybe in the future other companies, or become like a full-time venture capital investor?
That's a really good question. I love being a founder and I love venture capital. If I had to choose one, I would say founder. But I love both. And when I say venture capital, I've actually always wanted to have my own venture capital. Like,
Yeah, that's like combining the two, right? Founder of the
exactly.
VC. Yeah.
And I don't want to say too much, but I'll say this exclusively for your podcast is I'm in the works of having my own venture capital and that aspect. So to answer your question, I love both. I found out that I really love venture capital, and then I found out that I really love being a founder. So I was like, okay, putting both of them together. If I had to choose one, I would say founder. But venture capital is hard because you have to tell the other person your idea sucks. Not sucks. Okay, you have to tell them,
Yeah.
sorry, we won't invest because, we need to work on this thing. It's very heartbreaking. And I hate that side of venture capital. Um, because I'm a founder too, right? I empathize when I'm, looking at other founders, pitch deck. So yeah, I think definitely in the near future is having my own venture capital. And information systems builder, in the future getting acquired or stuff like that. And then definitely venture having my own venture capital. But these things are you have to plan and you have to.
Yeah.
I'm definitely planning and it's in the works, but it's definitely something that you just don't wake up and say, here's my venture capital. You have to, there's so many things that go into it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not super familiar with the venture capital model, how it works uh, in the weeds. How do they, what is their business model? But maybe you can tell high level, how do you want to build your future VC company? So, for example, you might have like some LPs, or where does the money come from? What would be your focus? Where to invest? You mentioned tech startups, maybe some very specific niche that you want to focus on.
To go too much in depth of what I want to do, but to answer your question, all venture capitals, majority, let me not say all, they get their money from limited partners,
Yep.
um, or wealthy individuals. um, so that's where they get most of the money because I mean, for them, they need to invest big money, right? It's because you're investing in other companies. And their business model is, I think they take a percentage every year. They charge a limited
Mm,
partners, wealthy people, a percentage, and then when it gets acquired, because that's where they make the money, when it gets acquired or when they go IPO.
yep.
That's they take like a percentage. So I think that's like the business model. For mine is I kind of I not to go too much into what I want to do, but um I kind of want to change the traditional way of people doing venture capital. I kind of
Interesting.
want to do it. I want it to be more accessible. I think venture capital, it's hard to meet somebody in venture capital and they just give you one meeting. Why is that? Why is it
Yeah.
that I need to know somebody in venture capital for them to even give me a shot to present to them? Or why is it that another investor, because I mean that's how it works, right? If you've raised Series A, um, it's kind of okay, another venture capital is going to introduce you to another venture capital, and another investor is going to introduce you to another investor. And I want to make that easier. I think that's like so hard. Like, what if, you have a great idea and your marketing is great, but then you're looking for investors, and no, you don't even know who to call. Majority of them, if you have the phone call of the offices, they're not answering. So, and if you go there in person, probably you're gonna stay there for a whole week for even somebody to talk to you. So I want to make that more accessible, and I just want to make venture capital, different, So that's how mine would go.
Yeah, that's actually a great mission, and I think you will help a lot of founders, and I hope you succeed with that in the future,
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, so you have a great journey and you're still kind of very actively working on your company, on investment part of things. But besides the things that you already shared, maybe some other lessons or things that you really want to share with the audience. Maybe someone who just starts to build their startup or just wants to better understand how it all works, where not to go, what not to do, things like that.
Where not to go, what not to do. I would say, um, hmm, as a founder, you really want to trust yourself, right? And you really want to because there's going to be a lot of obstacles are going to happen. And I know a lot of founders now, because we have this tech recession where a lot of startups are failing and a lot of, there's a lot of layoffs and, people are not spending money like they used to, especially investors. So I right now for founders, I don't want to say everybody, but it's I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? It's maybe your company was doing good last year, but because of all of this tech recession, it's not doing bad, but it's kind of grumpy. So I would say just trusting yourself because there's going to be a lot of that, and just trusting your instinct, trusting that you're great is very important. And then advice, sorry, you said to give an advice. I would say that, and then another advice I would give is having a great team is very important. Like when you're first starting, and I think that's something that I didn't know starting is definitely having your CMO, COO, CEO, CTO, like just definitely knowing this person is doing this person is doing this. Like definitely having a
Yeah,
great team will help your company a lot.
yeah, yeah, great. Before we finish off, maybe some things that I missed that I didn't ask you that you still want to talk about or share, anything that you want to talk about.
Mm, Oh, what do I want to share with you guys? I would say, definitely, I have some exciting news coming in the next few days, and I'll definitely come back in this podcast. I love this podcast, so
That would be
definitely,
great.
I
Yeah.
love the show. So I definitely want to come back and talk more about that. I think that would be, a great one. And then another thing that's coming up that I can share is I'm thinking of, launching my own charity foundation. Definitely want to do that just to give back. But I have a more exciting news coming up in a few days or weeks. It's legal stuff, so I can't really say it, and it takes forever, but I will come back for sure.
Wow, great. Great. Well, Cindy, great episode. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Hope
you.
you to have again soon with the good news
Thank
and maybe new stories that you want to share.
Yes.
Um, yeah, thank you. Any kind of last minute word that you want to
No,
put?
thank you so much. And I love this show, so thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank